is I'm going to count down from 3 here, and then we're going to get the call started. Are you ready?
Sure.
Direct mail leads, right?
Direct mail leads.
Okay. All right. So 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody, to the 65th episode of the #InvestThis podcast. I am your host, Scott Bauer, and today we have Allan Goodman with us with Direct Mail Leads. Allan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Scott. Feel great.
Good.
Thank you for inviting me.
Man, I'm happy to have you on the show for a few reasons. I'm going to give a little bit of background that I know about Allan, and then I'm going to let him take over. Direct Mail Leads is a print shop. Allan handles all of my direct mail for my real estate business and has for the last 4 or 5 years, something like that. We just talked about, I've spent probably $500,000 in postage and in mail alone with this guy over the last amount of time. And I can tell you that he is a wizard when it comes to direct mail. So, with that being said, Allan, why don't you give the listeners a little bit more about your background and kind of what you're focused on now, and we'll just chat for a few minutes.
Okay, sounds great. So here's what we have with our company that sets us apart from everyone else in the industry that basically will do mail for other people. In 1987, I started the company under Business Mailing Systems as an equipment dealer, just like a copier dealer, providing equipment across the country, postage machines, inserters, stuffer, lickers, everything that's necessary to do. And today we have customers that do anywhere from 3 million to 50 million a month with equipment that we have sold across the country to them. So what sets us apart is we sell the software. We train people how to do it, and we are, with the 31 years, now going on 32 years experience in the postal industry, we bring the most unique combination of the highest end software to clean your list. And so if anybody out there has done direct mail and you have a return address, the post office free will send your mail back to you if it has bad information on it, or if the forwarding address after 12 months expires. So what happens is you now get stacks of mail back. Scott gets hardly any mail back. Every 30 days, we get the entire new database for the entire country. So most of the people who do large amounts of mail for us, we normally save them about $1,000 in wasted postage and printing by cleaning out the bad addresses, the vacants that are deemed vacant by the post office on the mailing side, not the property side. So the post office now gives us the information that deems those properties vacant after 90 days. If it's sitting there with mail in it, they deem it vacant.
So I think it's important to talk about. There's a lot of people that are listening to this podcast right now that are in the real estate investment space that, have maybe talked or heard that direct mail is dead. Now, as you and I know, Allan, direct mail is not dead. Direct mail is one of the most, in my opinion, the most profitable marketing channels you can get out for your marketing because, it's tried and true and it's old. It's worked for a really long time, but the majority of people out there that are going, they'll send, I don't know, there's different providers out there, but they'll try to send direct mail and they'll only do, they'll send it, maybe a couple of times and they won't get the results that they need. Right. And that could be because the list that you're mailing to is not cleaned up. And so kind of what you're talking about there, you and I talk about this every single month, right? About making sure that data is good and it's clean. Because ultimately, if you're sending out a lot of mail, but you're getting a lot of it back, it's not effective, right?
Right. There's loss of income. $1,000 every time.
You're throwing money out the window, right? So what specifically are you doing that is different from everybody else other than just the software that you have? I mean, let's talk about that to the list.
That's a good thing. Okay, so the software that we have basically retails for $2,900, and every year you replace it with $1,800 with updates because every 30 days you get a brand new database. What people who do mail for other people are not doing is deleting the bad addresses and the vacants. Very important. we also go back 48 months and do the national change of address. A lot of companies don't do that. Even if you buy a list that says that they did the national change of address, we still go back and do it again just to re-verify it. And I just got a list that's a very clean list. It was a March database that was run, and I still pulled 48 moves out of a 15,000 database for the client. So now we now know where they moved to. It gives us the original address where it is, and it replaces it with the new address. The other thing that we're also doing is the do not mail list and the deceased list. So we keep the deceased list if you want it. The do not mail, we take it out. So if you want to go and do skip tracing on that, we give you back all the bad addresses in an Excel file, as well as the deceased and the do not mail. Then after all that's done, we make sure that we dedupe the entire list 3 ways. We go against the mailing side of it. We go against just the name side of the person to see if there's a match, and we go against the property. And then we do all 3 together. And so it's basically a 4-way match. And we chuck all those. We take all those out of there. There are some people that have 7 and 8 addresses that we would have mailed to if we didn't take them out, going to the same household or the same business. So all that combined together gives you the cleanest list possible that we possibly can give you.
And what that does for people out there is that you're going to get the best opportunity to get in front of the people that you want to get in front of when you're spending money in direct mail, right? Because when you have a clean list like you're talking about, and you are actually sending to these correct addresses, and I can tell you, everybody out there listening to this right now, the direct mail space is fairly complex. There's a lot of pieces that go into it, which is why you have to have a good partner like Allan that knows the system, knows how the mail works, knows how the printing works of it, so that you can get the best bang for your buck when you're spending money in this marketing channel, right?
Right. So the National Mailing Association says that 75% of your success of your mailing is the list. So part of the thing that is important that I try to teach everybody that we do business with is testing is everything. Demographics is everything. You could take a direct mail piece that you create, and which we've done for other people, that we've done in California, okay, and gave it to somebody in Texas, that same piece, and he got harassment calls. They just didn't like that piece. And so demographics is kind of a crazy thing, although you have those crazy scenarios where you're doing different logos on the outside of an envelope or different messaging. But the most important thing is that you can do is to have a call to action in your piece that gives a person a reason to pick up the phone and call you. I've always been under the impression that when you do postcards, you're kind of flooding the area. And if anybody knows, when you go to your mailbox, you look at your mail, the postcards are the first thing you see, and you do a quick look at it and you throw it in the trash can. You cannot take an envelope that has, like we just got through with Mother's Day, a Mother's Day theme on the envelope, and receive that and not open it. They have to open it, because the more things that you can do on the front of that envelope to keep them guessing is the reason that they're going to open that piece. We are starting a new project here in Phoenix for Maricopa County. We're purchasing the entire list of every known single-family home, multifamily property, trailer court, and business commercial property. We are, with help with people who we get the actual data of the sold list. We are cleaning up that list and maintaining it. And then we're creating an analytics for our customer base to know what are the hot zip codes in those areas, what averages are selling. So you have some statistical information. But we always have heard from everybody who is a flipper, the best list they possibly can get is a non-owner occupied, along with derogatories. Anything that could be negative, they'd like to have that. So the only way anybody can really get derogatories today is to then take a list that you say, this is my list, Allan. I want these 10,000 names sent out. Then we take that list and send it to TransUnion or Experian to get the derogatories of those people on those files. And at least now we have the most current possible information on the list. So now you then mail that list. We get back the feedback from you of how these calls are coming in and whose the profile is. And now that we have the derogatories, the next turnaround, the next week, you could go back, or next 2 weeks from now, go back on all the derogatories that you want to pick and just mail to those and forget the rest.
Let's talk about what derogatories are for the listeners that might not know what that means.
Okay, so that would be late fees, non-payment on water bills. You haven't paid your property assessed tax return, taxes for your property. Anything. It could be a divorce. It could be just the credit card side of the business is extremely high. There's about really 10 good scenarios, although the financial credit unions and credit bureaus are giving you maybe about 3,000 things you can pick from, but who's going to do that? We're going to pick the top 10 for you guys, which would be, there is anything that's public information is going to be there in those credit bureaus. And that's the most important thing.
So for the listeners out there, if you're hearing what Allan is out there doing, he's finding ways to where you can maximize the data that you have. So one thing that Allan does a better job than I do of, because I'm not as data analytical as I probably should be, but he's taking a raw list and breaking down the different pieces and components of that list to make it the most the best opportunity for you to get in front of the right people, so that you can ultimately, it takes less pieces to be able to find a deal. So you can break down a raw list based on what these different demographics of people are, based on these different, if somebody has high credit card payments, or if they're late in their mortgage, like the different scenarios, the derogatories he just talked about. And you can shrink your list down to be more likely that those people that you're sending mail to are going to be in a situation where, we'd have an opportunity to be able to buy these.
Yeah. So when they call you, you're sitting in front of them. You have some vital information that you can work from. At least you feel more comfortable that you can get them to talk and express, where you want to go. The other thing that we are now doing is Google Street. And we are doing test marketing. Most people who have done Google Street have done postcards. We want to take it to another level where we're doing a soft approach, and where you are being presented in a letter with the property at the bottom of the letter, where you're saying you are a person that is basically trying to improve the community. You are a person that's interested in this particular area, and this home that I put in on your property, it fits our profile, and we're very much interested in making you an offer. Just take a second, give us a call if you would consider us helping your community and improving the scenario. But we are, so you're doing a soft approach in the very first paragraph, a call to action. You're a human being that is trying to benefit the community. And that's the approach we're trying to home in on with the right paragraph that's going to get them the call.
So I think that one of the big things the takeaway I get out of that, Allan, is that you're trying to humanize this process, because every investor out there who's listening to this podcast right now knows that, a lot of the gurus out there talk about, sending just a mass approach, it's kind of a numbers game, etc. And
right.
they're taking the humanization part out of it, where, everything is automated today with technology. It's all automated and there's no human element to it. And what Allan is saying is that, no, let's back up a little bit. Let's look at it from a human standpoint. And how do we put this into a direct mail piece that will encourage somebody to take action when they actually open it up and look at it, and humanize the transaction. Is that about right?
Absolutely. And one of the things about your letter and what we found over the 31 years experience we've been doing direct mail in all kinds of segments is that a professional letter with a logo has always been a important thing. So having a business logo at the top of your letterhead is a good thing. Secondly, like Scott's doing, he's doing a picture of himself. A lot of people are doing pictures with their family, with their dog, with their girlfriend, so they're humanizing it by putting a picture on the letter.
Yeah.
So 75% is the quality of the list. The next thing is creating a letter for call to action. And everybody is saying we want to buy your property as is. Some people we've done where we put a check in the mail with a letter at the bottom on an 8.5 by 14 letter that says, here's your $2,500. We'll provide you $2,500 worth of moving expenses. So we've tried that as well. It works in some areas. It doesn't work in all areas. It just depends on the demographics and the lifestyle. It's demographics and the lifestyle that kind of goes together. So everybody knows in one zip code, there's some homes that are very expensive, and then there's some homes that are trash, all in the same zip code. So, we have here in Scottsdale, Arizona, dream city in the United States, we have a zip code 85258 that centers in around McCormick Ranch, which is a huge ranch. It's like a 10 square mile ranch that was developed way back in the 80s. Yep. And I'm telling you, that zip code is horrible. And nobody gets any calls on that zip code. And so there you go. And besides that, what's happened in the industry is the elderly, the people that have turned 65 and that are retired, are not selling their houses. They're staying in it. They're not downsizing it to a small condominium, like they had in the past. So there is kind of less on the marketplace because of the elderly not wanting to sell. So we have that scenario.
Well, and I mean, I guess the most important thing I want, because, the listeners here are trying to understand some value about what you would bring to the table that's different. Now, we've already gone over, really, I mean, obviously you've been a partner for me, Allan, for the last 5 years, and, we've done a ton of stuff together. And I think that all of these different nuances that you're doing are allowing me to have success in my business, where a lot of people, when I go to these mastermind groups or I go to events and I hear people talk about, oh, direct mail is dead. Here, I'm sitting in the corner. I'm thinking, no, it's not. You just got to know what you're doing. And you got to do things like test. Now, like Allan said, I don't get a whole lot. I don't get a whole lot back. I can tell you in April, out of how many we sent in April? 30,000, 35,000 in April, something like that. This is what I got back. There's like 15. That's barely any, right?
Right. So, and the reason he got those back is from the time I got the new database and cleaned his list, people moved. And the post office now has incredibly helped people who are moving to get their mail to the new facility, the new home, in 7 to 10 days. So they're turning the change of address really quick for people.
Yep.
So that's a difference. In the past, it took weeks. And now they're more sophisticated. The cost to advertise, it's so. All I can tell you is that I tell anybody who's new with me, give me a bigger list than what you think you want to mail. Take your budget, and as an average, if you just figure 65 cents as an average, as a piece for a 4-color letter, a 4-color envelope. With 4-color on the outside of the envelope. It could be white. We do carry white, pink, blue, and green. in number 10s and 6x9s and a halves. So we carry a lot of inventory of envelopes and different things. You can switch from pink, the blue, the green, the yellow. You can do red printing on yellow paper. So very, we're giving. So what's different about our company is we're really a custom company. We're not a cookie cutter type company that you just go to the website, pick something out, and everybody does the same thing. We try to customize the whole process to you. Now, the thing that's kind of interesting that I say to everybody, why not pick 4 or 5 zip codes that are fairly close together, get the most you can out of that, and then based on your budget, if your budget is $1,000 a month, okay, that's fine. Well, you're not going to do a lot of mail for $1,000 a month, but at least you're going to get something out there. The requirements from the post office, you got to do at least 200 pieces at any one time to get the lowest postal discount. And so if you just did 750 pieces a week consistently, then you have an opportunity to at least change your letter, change the color of the letter. You can do a white envelope with a pink letter, which everybody knows if they get a window envelope with a pink letter in it, it normally indicates you're past due, correct? Yeah. So you can change colors. You can do the sizes different. So if you're going to take the same list of 750 pieces and just repeat that, and repeat that every week, okay, you each time you do a mailing, it could be something different. And we do 3.5 by 5.5 postcards to 6 by 11. So to get a postcard discount for first class pre-sorted, you can only go up from a 3.5 by 5.5 to a 4.25 by 6. If you go to a 6 by 11, then it's going to go bulk. The thing that we do is very important. We do not make any money on your invoice for postage. We don't mark it up. We don't mark up the freight. So if you're in Washington, D.C. or you're in Florida, we can get mail there in 2 days through bulk. You get the same pricing as if I'm mailing for Scott at the lowest postal rate at 22.8 cents for a 5-digit sort.
Yep.
And only you need 150 pieces to qualify in one zip code to get the 22.8. So we don't make any money on postage. We give you an 80% discount if you're doing 100 pounds of mail or more going to a city anywhere in the country. We can get it there in 2 days or 4 days going all the way to Florida. So we pass on an 80% discount on freight, so it gets it there quicker. But the thing that's important by us doing that, we have another level of security that we now have the post office accepting a skid of mail and signing off on it rather than me dropping it here in Phoenix.
So, what I guess I want to kind of recap, we're getting close on time and I want to get into our lightning round, but I want to recap for the listeners out there that Allan's the real deal, guys. I mean, we've done, like I said, I've done over $500,000 in mail with him over these years. We've tried stuff, we've tested stuff, we've changed stuff up pretty much on the regular. And with his knowledge and experience of how the mail system works, he's a great partner when it comes to trying to send direct mail out there, because you want to have a good list, you want to have good testing, you want to have a good partner in this space. And so, I couldn't recommend him any more than that. So anyways, Allan, I appreciate you sharing all that information for the listeners. I'm sure that you're going to get some calls. We're going to make sure to add all of your contact information in there for everybody on the show notes. Right. But just for sake of time, I have what's called a lightning round. Are you ready for a lightning round?
Sure, go.
All right. So I'm going to ask you 5 questions that might throw you for a little spin.
You have to go back. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Ready? Okay. If you were to give, what is your hashtag invest this tip to keep our listeners moving forward? If you were going to give a tip to them, what would that be?
Well, I would say out of the whole thing, it's important who you're buying your list from. So that's why we're trying to create this new technology of providing lists. We've sold lists before over the years, but so the biggest thing is getting a list provider is giving you at least some decent information. Okay, so we know the most current information is coming from the assessor file, and those people that are getting that information don't always keep it up to date. And so we have gotten some that are just so bad. We're taking out 25% bad addresses out of a 10,000 list. That's a huge amount.
Right.
Besides all these duplications. So yeah, it's all, to me, the most important thing has always been is the list. And by having our company clean that list, you know you've got the best scenario possible going in for success. At least you're not wasting $1,000 in wasted postage and mail coming back to you. I mean, that's the hottest tip I can get. The second thing is testing. Just like Scott does, try different colors, try different phrases. We do yellow letters. We do yellow paper where you can do red writing and just do 8 bullet points down the sheet with your phone number.
Yep.
You don't have to get fancy.
Yep. Great tip. Thank you for sharing that. What would be, if you could recommend a book, Allan, that you've read that has had a massive impact on your life, what would that be?
Wow. I would say, well,
I know I'm putting you on the spot. I didn't give you any heads up.
That's a stump question. Well, let me put it this way. Dare to Be Great is probably one of the most popular. I mean, that was popular back in my days. I mean, I just turned 70 in October, and I was involved with Paul J. Meyer with Success Motivation when I was 20, selling technology for motivation, and all those things in persistence and knowing how to present yourself in sales is everything. And it's not so much, even if you're in sales, even if you're not in sales, it's still communicating with people, right, and providing whatever your benefit you're going to be in a relationship.
Absolutely.
So, Trump has great books. He touts his book, but I go with the guys that are the motivators that have written these motivation books and experiences, and I can tell you that it is as the most famous scholar in our industry was asked, well, how do you contribute intelligence? And he said, it's real simple. It's all in the behind of the beholder. So, as far as comedy goes, comedy works probably, at least 25% less, during our times now than it should. And maybe a little humor can go a long way, along with meeting somebody for the first time.
Well, thank you for sharing that book. I appreciate that. What about advice? Who's giving you the best advice out there that you could pass on to the listeners?
The Direct Mail Association does consistently try to give updated information. So I would go to their website and look at all their educational pamphlets and those things. The other thing is just analyzing your own mail. And if you have friends that have other businesses and they're chucking their mail, maybe take a look and analyze other people's mail that's coming to some of your friends that are going to be throwing in a trash can and seeing it. So as much mail as you can get your hands on, they'll take a look at it and say, well, that's different. Maybe I should try something like that. The one thing we know about the direct mail industry, plagiarism is number one. Everybody can copy anything, anytime in those scenarios. So I had my one client here in town who was in the travel industry doing 3 million pieces a month. Every 6 months, he stopped mailing to those people and waited 6 months to then mail again. So he had a very sophisticated database manager software program that kept him current, but he tested like a madman on those 3 million going out every month.
So just analyzing the data is what you're saying. Analyze it. Okay.
And the thing I don't get for my own customers is what are your customers, what are the people you're selling saying about you once you sold them? I mean, what's the feedback you're getting? And a lot of the direct mail pieces that we've done over the years, probably the one that Scott has always stayed on is our 6x9.5 envelope. They say it's the most professional piece they've ever gotten, especially in a color.
Yep.
It is different. It sticks out. It's bigger than anything else in the mail that most people get, and it's a color. So all those things go together, and it's they've always said in the direct mail industry, it's not how much you're paying for the direct mail, it's your response.
Yeah.
And since your profit, you're not selling a $49.95 widget.
Nope.
Your cash for that first sale is anywhere from 10 to 25,000. I had one guy in California and in San Francisco go in and purchase a house. He made 125,000 and never had to touch the house.
Yep. I know.
Never had to remodel. It happens. So,
So thank you for sharing that. I think just analyzing data is really, really important as an advice piece. But Allan, how do you like to give back?
How do I like to give back? Well, every day I wake up and I say to my customer base, I'm just trying to make a few people happy every day. And by doing that, I have to be in a positive frame of mind and provide new ideas as much as humanly possible to try to help you make the highest amount of profit you possibly can. And so being a technology company in the mailing industry affords me all the insights to what's coming down the pike from the post office. We do have inside relationships with the board of directors that control the pricing for the post office. We know before it's coming down what's being proposed. Those are kind of important things to some degree. You can't stop Mother Nature from the post office changing your price, but you can get ahead of the curve before the shit hits the fan, as they say, and get a little bit more mail out at a lower cost. So
just providing a good experience for all your customers, etc. I think that's a good way to give back. How can the listeners reach you? If they want to know more about how to be connected with direct mail leads, or if they want to get some information, where do they find you at, Allan?
Right. We're under dmlaz.com is our website. Our website allows you to do a client startup, and give your company information. You can send us a list. We allow you to send us a list for $250, which then will allow you to then transfer that total dollars toward your first mailing. So it starts a relationship. The biggest thing is that we are doing here is our organizational flow chart for our customer base, and communication is everything for us. We communicate more with our customer base than anybody in the marketplace. It's just the thing that's so unique about us. I can tell you, not anybody in this industry has ever taken your letter or your phone number on your piece and called it. We do it every time to make sure that phone number is working, and has helped. That is probably the biggest thing we do, to make sure that the money that you spent, that the phone is going to ring. And we tell people, hey, it's 8 rings before they picked up. Call your answering service and get them to pick it up in 2 or 3. Yep. Because people will leave messages and you can see the message, listen to the message, but it's nice to get a couple rings and they pick up.
Right. So all the listeners out there listening to this, Allan, first and foremost, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
It is the real deal. Direct mail is a highly profitable marketing channel. Allan's a great partner. I encourage you, if you're doing any sort of direct mail out there today, reach out to Allan. Take a second opinion at what you're doing now, because I'm here to tell you that it's worth it. It's something that has allowed me to see a lot of success in my business, and I encourage everybody out there to do the same thing. So, Allan, once again, appreciate you being here, and we'll talk to you real soon, man.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Talk to you. Bye-bye.